Episode 22, Save That Woman. Bryce's heart skipped a beat. He had never felt like this before. He was nervous, excited, and even had a little bit of anticipation. "Liam, tell me, how old are you this year?" He stared at Liam's face, which did look similar to his. At that moment, he saw how surprisingly alike they looked.
"I'm 4 years old,"
Liam answered honestly. Bryce's eyes flashed. His parents had never seen him look like this. They looked at each other and were even more sure that their son was hiding something from them. "When were you born? Which year and which month?" he asked with a slight tremble in his voice. He's 4 now, he thought. Could it really have been that night 5 years ago? Liam had never seen his dad this nervous. Since he was young, he could only feel sorry for him without knowing the reason behind it. He lowered his head and thought for a moment before saying,
"I was born on November 5th.
The light in Bryce's eyes dimmed. He shook his head in disappointment. The date of birth didn't match. He must be mistaken. He vaguely remembered that he and that woman had been together in March of that year, and Liam had been born in November. Plus, he and the woman had only spent one night together, so it was impossible for her to get pregnant that easily. He felt relieved and stopped looking at Liam. He said to his parents calmly, "This is not my child, I'm sure." But he didn't know that Natalie had given birth prematurely due to her poor health abroad. Bryce's parents knew that he would not lie about this sort of thing, so when he told them that Liam was not his child, they were filled with disappointment. He wasn't their grandson, so it didn't matter how much they liked him. Michelle hugged Liam tighter. She sighed and asked, "Then what should we do now? How did this child find you?" Bryce was a powerful man. Although Liam wasn't his child, there was no guarantee that someone wouldn't exploit this opportunity. Michelle couldn't help but worry and wonder whether Liam had been used somehow. "This matter is a little complicated. You don't have to worry about it." Bryce frowned. He clearly didn't want to explain any more about it. Just thinking about Natalie gave him a headache. Liam looked at Bryce and his parents and explained,
"Mom was taken away by bad people. Dad said he would bring Mom back, so I'll wait here for her."
Although he was young, his speech was clear, like an adult. Michelle glanced at the boy in her arms with a complicated expression. Then she put him down on the couch and pulled Bryce aside. "Bryce," she said, "if this isn't your child, then where is the father? Why does he call you Dad all the time? And what happened to his mother?" Bryce let out a long sigh. He had no choice but to explain. "Liam is from a single-parent family. His mother takes care of him alone, and he has no father. Maybe because he thinks that I look like his father, he couldn't help but call me Dad." The moment he said this, Bryce felt surprised. Was he speaking for Liam? Michelle looked at Liam, who was still sitting on the couch with a pained expression. She hadn't expected him to be fatherless, and she sighed and said, "Then what are you going to do?" Bryce also shifted his gaze to Liam. Remembering how the boy had cried in his arms, his heart softened and he said, "I promised that I would save his mother. Then we will never have anything to do with each other again." Michelle nodded with some understanding, but she was a little surprised. She knew her son best, and he hated trouble. But now it seemed he couldn't bear to treat this child harshly. This was truly a rare sight. She thought for a while and said, "How about this? It's not convenient for Liam to be with you all the time. Right now, you have work to do. We will look after him. And when you get his mom back, then you can return him to her." Bryce nodded. It was indeed inconvenient for the child to stay with him, so he reached out to call Liam. Seeing his dad wave, Liam obediently jumped down from the sofa and ran over to him. He called out sweetly,
"Yes, Dad."
Bryce's expression changed for a moment. For some reason, he suddenly felt reluctant to let him go. But he said to him coldly, "Liam, you have to go with my parents right now, as I have things to take care of. I'll find your mother. Will you wait for her to come and pick you up?" He didn't know that when he talked to Liam like this, tenderness was etched all over his face. His parents looked at each other with complicated expressions as their hearts filled with bewilderment. Liam nodded. He knew that his dad was really busy and that he could not continue to mess around. So he followed his grandparents. After they left, the huge office finally fell quiet, and Bryce's headache returned as he thought about how to save that woman. Suddenly, he wondered why he cared so much about her. He could have entrusted this matter to his men. Instead of thinking about such trivial things, he went back to business. Recently, there was a problem with one of his company's projects in a neighboring city. Bryce was very meticulous when he worked, so he went straight to the city on a business trip. He left for 2 days. For those 2 days, Natalie was trapped in the Davidson family home. Her heart burned with anxiety. She was very worried about Liam's safety. At the same time, the harm that her family had done to her had already put her despairing heart on the verge of collapse. Although she was given food, she lost weight because of her worries, which made her look even weaker than before. Since Cheryl had nothing better to do, she brought food to her sister. Seeing her looking like this, she started to feel secretly proud of herself.
Natalie, are you still not going to contact Bryce? You look so skinny.
Soon you'll become ugly.
Even if you can wait, can Liam? He's probably starving to death right now.
Hearing Liam's name, Natalie's dim eyes immediately regained their clarity. She looked at Cheryl furiously. If anything happens to him, I'll bury the entire family, starting with you. I hate you. I hate all of you. She wanted nothing more than to tear Cheryl to shreds. Unfortunately, she was tied tightly. Otherwise, she would have personally taught this little sister of hers a lesson.